It's the BBP TV show since 2012, where amazing guests share their digital adventures. Who will we meet today? Small biz influencer, up-and-coming trendsetter, accomplished author? You never know who'll be dropping by. And now, here's your host, Elaine Lindsay, the bionic glamourpreneur with Truel Social Media, who's the second most curious person on the planet.
Hello there.
Hi.
It's lovely to be here with today's guest, Kristin Zhivago of Zhivago Partners. Now, I'm going to take a few moments and give you the lowdown on Kristin because we're going to have a very interesting discussion. She's got, to me, a nice varied background with a lot of really interesting stuff. You're a bit of a techie. I get that right off the bat, which is cool because I absolutely love that. But let me give you just a little bit about Kristin. She's the president of Zhivago Partners. That's a digital marketing management company that serves both B2B and B2C clients in a variety of industries. Pardon me, I don't know what's wrong with my tongue today. Her digital agency is comprised of a core infrastructure team with a variety of specialists in the various digital methods and media. And she began in the high-tech industry. She and her husband, through their high-tech agency, helped introduce and market all of the technologies we take for granted today. And that's what I'm really excited about, to talk to her all about, because that, I think, is going to be pretty cool. When the web emerged as a commercial medium, she branched out into other industries and reinvented herself to become a revenue coach, helping CEOs and entrepreneurs sell the way her customers want to buy. That is so critically important. She has a 5-star book called Roadmap to Revenue, How to Sell the Way Your Customers Want to Buy, and it was chosen by Forbes as one of the top sales and marketing books. Now, she speaks frequently on the subject of the customer's buying process, and she was one of the first to identify that as being key to selling to today's customers. And also about building your business to compete effectively in our fast-changing, hyper-competitive markets. And I have to say, oh my heavens, talk about fast-changing and hyper-competitive. Did it ever occur to you that we would end up where we are today? I don't think there's anybody on the planet that thought we were heading into this kind of situation with the pandemic. So why don't you give me your thoughts on how things might have changed for you and your company in the past year and a bit?
Well, what's interesting is nothing really changed at all. Because we're a virtual company. I've been in tech so long and
Yes.
been working out of my home office since 1979. So a long time,
Yeah.
and in Silicon Valley. And it's just a great way to live because especially if you're happily married or you have kids or both, it's nice to be around family and spend time. At the same time, just getting your work done. And I don't worry about being a workaholic. I'm actually proud of being a workaholic. As long as you get a little time off, it's fine. And if you love what you do, of course. But we already had people all over the country and in some cases all over the world who were doing work, and everything was set up virtually. So it just didn't affect us at all.
That's good to hear because there are a lot of people like us who are digital and life has gone on, and especially for those of us who have home offices and who work with their spouse or partner. It does kind of keep the flow going. And as you say, happy marriage, kids. In our case, we have 5 grandkids as well. And as much as we up here in Canada are in lockdown, I know that things are, I think, a little less stringent for you. So you're able to get out and about a little more.
Yeah, some states are really opening up too. And I'm seeing what I think is going to be a big flood in the economy with people just picking up and getting outside and feeling like they're alive again and not stuck in the house or stuck in jail, so to speak. So I think we're going to see a big resurgence along with inflation and a lot of other things that are happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you say to, probably a lot of the businesses that you deal with that are B2C, the business with customers, they may have been impacted a lot differently than those of us that are digital.
Well, I think that's the problem. I think these days, if you're not fully in the cloud with your business operations, you're behind. It's just the way it is. And I've been keeping up with tech since I was in my teens. Just decided to go into the business and got more and more involved in it. So it's always moving, it's always increasing. But now you really don't, you're not competitive if you're
Yeah.
not in the cloud. You have to
Yeah.
learn it. You have to be out there. You have to, all of our tools, everything we do is in the cloud.
Absolutely, and I think it's safe to say, and I'm sure you'll agree that it doesn't even matter, like if you're a plumber, if you're a food stand, if you are a residential cleaning company, there has to be something in the cloud. There just has to. It's where we've gone. It's like back in the day when we switched to the car. Not everybody wanted to, but eventually it was you got to go along to get along.
Yeah. And it's really an obvious trend. I mean, we're way past the early adopter stage and well
Yeah,
into the mass stage. And I would say to small businesses, if they don't have chat, they're behind. If
that's
they're not setting up ways for people to interact with their company and order from them, or at least, streamline the buying process, they're behind.
yeah,
The whole marketplace has shifted. Even for the brick and mortar stores, you really have to have an online presence that gives somebody something to do and for them to understand. We have a small retail client right now who's just in stage 1 of their website.
yeah,
And the goal at the moment is to get them to the brick and mortar store. But there's
yeah.
still a lot of content that we put on that site to make that
Oh, yeah,
happen so that
yeah.
people would say, oh, great, they've got my brands and they've got exactly what I need and they're going to be helpful
Mhm.
and all that. And the next step is, of course, so the company can sell via an e-commerce website.
Yeah,
But you really do
absolutely.
have to do all of that these days.
Yeah, yeah, and I use the example of a food stand because we dealt with one that is on a university grounds, and of course the universities are closed here. They have been the whole time. So they had to think outside the box and decide to facilitate the people in the next community. So
Mm-hmm.
that required an awful lot of attention to digital
Mm-hmm.
because you have to get the message out there, and everybody's online.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
My 88-year-old father does a day does not go by that he's not online doing
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, so your B2B clients, is that sort of where your revenue side was, where you were doing the finance revenue coaching, I guess is what it was
Well,
called?
revenue coaching means how to sell the way your customers want to buy. So I was teaching entrepreneurs and CEOs how to make more money by understanding what their customers wanted to buy from them and how they wanted to buy it.
Right.
The reason that I got into that whole thing is I realized when we were running an ad agency in Silicon Valley, I used to interview my clients' customers. And
Ah,
first I would go to the client and the client would say, this is what we think is important to our customers,
yeah.
and be a list. And then I'd go out and I interview their customers. And it didn't take very many, 5 or 7 of a given type in a long, telephone interview where I ask open-ended questions about which I've written in great detail in my book. Because I think everybody should do this. And
Yeah.
I had then a bankable set of data, and their list was completely different than the company's list.
Yeah.
So the
Absolutely.
company's whole marketing strategy was based on their assumptions,
It's
which
over
were
here.
incorrect.
Yeah.
And so they were wondering why their marketing was not working. Well, there you go. And so in a way, it was no challenge at all to take that as the world became more digital, the same principle applied.
Yeah.
People have a buying process, and now they have all the tools they need. They can go almost all the way through a buying process without ever talking to a salesperson, even for what I call the high scrutiny B2B products and services.
Yeah.
So they don't even want to talk to a salesperson until they've gotten like 90% of their questions answered. And now it's just, well, how much is it? And maybe I have a few more questions. So all of that has stayed the same in the sense that the customer knows what they want.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've been talking about a lot lately is something called the mindset, the customer-driven mindset, or the mindset-driven marketing, where the most important thing is to understand the mindset of the customer when they set out to buy. And that consists of their desires, their concerns, and their questions. And if you're not covering those three things, they're just going to come in, look around, and say, they don't have what I want, and click out.
Yeah, because your competitors will.
Yes, if they're smart, they will.
Yeah, absolutely. We do the same thing in the optimization area because we found it's kind of the same thing. You're looking for data and you ask the clients, what is it that you think they search for? And
Yeah, that's always funny. Yes.
And I had
Yeah.
clients say to me, what do you mean what I think? Well, we do nutrition and we have holistic health and we do these products and yada yada. And I said, yeah, but if I'm looking for you, I'm probably going to ask for something that's going to help my husband's upset stomach.
Exactly.
Or my child's diarrhea.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah.
the kids are vomiting. What do I do?
Yeah.
And I can remember the nutritionist said, oh my God. I said, yeah, we get so stuck as businesses in our own expertise.
Exactly.
We lose sight of the fact that, people's needs, when you get to that point, can be very simple. And the simpler you make it for people to be able to buy from you, the better off you'll be.
Well, and it's kind of interesting when I talk to CEOs about this, and they're like, why do you have to make it easy for it? I mean, it's easy. All they have to do is call us up. And so then I just turn the tables on them and I say, okay, let's talk about the last time you bought a car or a house or something. How easy was that? Or any high scrutiny purchase, like going out and trying to find a CRM system for your business or an ERP system or something. I mean, how on earth do you start out knowing that at least when you buy that thing, and by the way, one of the questions you need to answer is what's going to happen to me after I buy, which nobody ever answers, and everybody has that question. What's it going to be like after I spend $20,000 for this thing and I'm trying to work it and nobody can figure out how to do it and I get stuck? And so they have these questions. They're very specific questions, which is why you have to interview them, because you won't know. And if you try to guess, because you're in the middle of your movie and they're just coming into the theater, you're not going to get it right. And that's okay. It's not your fault. It's just, that's the way it is. So you have to come back to where they are, understand exactly how they describe it and what they're really looking for. And then you're going to be on the right track. And no matter what you do and what channel it's in, because everybody always gets all excited about, I'm going to do social or SEO or whatever. Yeah. But if the message is wrong, none of that is going to work.
Yeah. And that's the sad part, because you can be literally a centimeter away. And that centimeter is the world.
Yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right. That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah, well, I really liked your analogy about the movie, coming into the movie late. It's absolutely, you're not going to have the same questions at all. I think it's so critically important that people understand it doesn't matter whether it's a corporation, it doesn't matter whether it's like IBM or Google, or it's the plumber down the street. You have to do the same process to understand your customer.
Yeah. And I've worked with the tiniest companies and the biggest, IBM, Dow Jones, Johnson & Johnson. I've worked with companies that thought they knew their customer and they'd done all these studies and stuff, but they hadn't just gotten on the phone and talked to them.
Yeah.
The problem too is that you have to ask open-ended questions, and they can't be leading questions. Like a survey is a really bad idea, because those are the questions that you think that they're asking. Like frequently asked questions when you go on a site, they're often not the questions you have at all. It's the questions they would like to answer. The company would like to answer. It's not what you're asking. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've said to people that having a frequently asked question section should have a form where people can initially send in their question, because as you say, the bulk of the time they're not on there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so frustrating. And well, it's interesting to me how quickly a CEO or an entrepreneur gets it when I say, think of your last buying experience.
Yeah.
I mean, even on Amazon, and Amazon has set the world standard for answering customer questions and allowing customers to talk to each other. People who've never met each other can say, how did you feel about this product? Or will it fit into this space that I have? What's disgusting is when you look at those questions and those answers, it's the kind of stuff that the manufacturer should have said.
Yes.
Like a unit that goes into a fixture in your, or a piece of furniture in your living room or something, and you want to know if it will fit in that space. Please give me the measurements. How many times do you search for the measurements of something and it's not there, and it's a physical object? Hello. So, and they should be giving them in centimeters and inches, and there's some basic stuff. And they just, because they're so far into the middle of their movie or even the end of their movie, they don't even realize that people are still back there scratching their heads saying, wait a minute, I just want to know this.
Yeah. Prime example, and it's Amazon. We have a Chihuahua, a very small Chihuahua. She's like 4 and a bit pounds. And I went on to Amazon to try and find a very long training lead that the clip would not be too heavy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
She's 4 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay? The first one, the clip was probably 3 pounds. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Little dog, this is not going to work.
No. Dragging her head down the street.
Exactly. It's like, let's go for a walk. But nowhere on the site did anyone address the fact that is a real concern.
Yeah.
Great if you have a 110-pound chocolate lab. That's not so good for Chihuahua.
It's a perfect example. And so this gap, I've been trying to close this gap between what the customer wants and what the company tells them.
Yeah.
For years and years, I've just devoted my career to it. And what's a little sad is it's not getting better.
No.
I keep thinking I'll work myself out of a job, but it hasn't happened yet.
You got to work harder.
Yeah.
Yourself out of your job harder. Yeah. What, in an ideal world, what do you think would be the best approach for any company? I think you're going to talk about going directly to the customer and asking them, because I think I'm like you. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. So in my book, in chapter 3, I explain very specifically how to do this. And it's an interviewing process that I've tested and proven out over thousands and thousands of interviews with hundreds of companies, or the thousands of customers for hundreds of companies. What you do is you pick the customers who are happy of a given type. So again, you need to speak to at least 5 to 7 of a given type. So if you have 3 types of buyers, like in a complex business to business thing, then you talk to those 3, or you have 3 different demographics or something.
Yeah.
So you have to talk to 5 to 7 of each. And you have these open-ended questions, which are all in my book. But they're things like, how did you feel about our product and service? And how did you find us? If you're looking for this again, what would you type into Google? And if you were the CEO of the company tomorrow, what's the first thing you would fix? Which is always...
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one, yeah. So you have these open-ended questions. There's probably about 10 of them max. It used to be I would do these over an hour, but people are getting very fast these days at answering questions. And so they're mostly about half an hour each. You make an appointment with them. You get on the phone, and first you send them an email and say, I'd like to talk to you, and here's why. We want to improve our systems, and I want to understand how you buy. A third of the customers that you reach out to will get back to you right away. A third will get back to you with a second request, and a third will never get back to you. So you always need 3 times the number of customers to start with for this. But this is not complicated. You just work this out on a little spreadsheet, and the goal is to understand their buying process and then reverse engineer that successful sale. So now you know what their buying process was, what they searched for in Google, if they used Google. If not, did they talk to their friends, which a lot of B2B people now are doing something I call peer proof, which is they won't even think about buying something if they can't find reviews on it or some kind of data that helps them from someone who has already bought it and already experienced it. And that person can answer the question, what's going to happen to me after I buy? So you interview them, you have these things recorded, and you tell them up front, you're recording, but you can't type as fast as they can talk. So, and they accept that. They're okay with that. But then you also tell them that you're going to put their answers in a report that's categorized by subject. So it's completely anonymous. So then they're cool. They're fine. And they'll open right up. Then you ask your questions. You have it then transcribed. There's a wonderful service called rev.com that will do that for you for $1.25 a minute or something. They come back. You have to clean them up a little and get rid of some of the ums and ahs and some of the silly sentence structure that people have, which I'm probably doing right now when they speak. And then you have somebody break up these answers so that all of the answers to that question are in that part of the report and this part of the report and so on. Then you give that to the top management, and they read every word, even if it's 150 pages. Believe it or not, they read every word because it's like somebody telling them about their life.
Oh, absolutely.
Telling them things they had no idea that, oh, wow, I had no idea people were thinking that was important. And I mean, we've rebranded whole companies based on one comment that somebody made that was the perfect summation of all the comments everybody made. Yeah. And it helped the company get on the right track. And then the revenues go up because the customers see themselves. So you do this report and then you summarize it. You sit there and you look. I sit there for several hours and I have the conversation report on one screen and my summary on the other. And I'm just kind of making bullets about, okay, this person basically said this and this and this. And then I give recommendations. So here's where we are. Obviously, by the way, it is really obvious. I mean, you need help with the marketing and everything, that's fine. But the conclusion, the big picture, the big driving force, the one thing that makes you better or different than everybody else, that comes through loud and clear. And that big difference, that big, unique, wonderful thing is the thing that you then promote. Yeah. And then there's some other stuff you learn about that's not so hot. Like when they say, what would the CEO fix or whatever? And so you work on that. And once you get that good, then you can promote that. So it's just a roadmap to revenue, which is why I called the book that. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. And it's funny that you bring it up, but I think it's important to note this peer-to-peer thing that people, especially B2B, but we're hearkening back to the dark ages. When this is a story I've used for years, okay? When we lived in a village, you know, you have the farrier at one end of the village, And as the village grew, another farrier would come in and he'd set up at the other end of the village. But when you took your horse to be shod, the new farrier was, let's say, snarky with your children.
Mm-hmm.
And your horse was really skittish when you got him back. So the next time you're talking to your neighbors and they ask about the new farrier, well, that's what you're going to pass on. You're not going to pass on that he's got a cleaner straw floor or any of the good stuff.
Yeah.
But that word of mouth marketing, you know, after a few months, this new farrier is going to wonder what the hell is going on.
Yes, that's
Because
correct.
everybody has migrated back to the old guy. We all like the shiny new objects and everybody tries it. You know, it's just the way it is. But that word of mouth marketing that went through the village said, yeah, you know, he's much better with your horse. And the funny thing is, it's never a matter of price.
No, it's not a matter of price. You're absolutely right about that. People will pay a little more to get what they want, what they really want, which is
Yeah,
why it's so important to understand what they really want.
absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, for example, I was talking to somebody recently and I found out that there are a lot of people out there in SEO right now who are charging $1,500 a month to supposedly improve your SEO. And that
Yeah.
seems to be a magic number. Like it's just enough for an entrepreneur to pay every month and not feel like it's overburdening them. But other people who've gone in, I was talking to a guy who does basically system integrations. He's a partner, you know, he'll come in and he'll help you get your whole CRM system or ERP system set up or whatever. He's a system integrator. So he runs across these sort of auxiliary things, auxiliary technologies. And he was talking to one of his clients and he said, well, you know, who are you using for your SEO? Because she was talking about it. Well, I pay them $1,500 a month. And he says, well, what do they do? And she said, well, they do something with the content in the website every month that makes me go up in the rankings or something. So part of the problem is that if you don't know about it, you can't manage it. You can't manage
Yes.
what you don't understand. So that's a
Yes.
really big problem right now. And the second thing is, so he went into the back end of their site to see if anything new had been
No
changed or
plugin?
happened. There was nothing.
No.
So
No
she's been paying
analytics, no
no
plugin.
and nothing. No.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she's been paying $1,500 a month for nothing, which is really bad because she could have been paying a smaller amount for something, or say a bigger amount even for something. I mean, as you know, in SEO, there's a lot to it. You need to understand what your competitors are being found for. You need to document this. You have to do amazing amount of research and then present that. And they should be meeting with their SEO person once a week and figuring out what's going on. And there's content that needs to be put in, recency,
Absolutely.
frequency. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
we come from a very different place. I'm glad you brought that up because SEO is one patch in a quilt that needs to be integrated in order to function.
yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So for someone to do SEO and nothing else really doesn't make sense because Google and Bing and Yandex and all of them are simply looking to return the very best answer for every user query there is.
Yes, that is correct.
So if you don't first know what it is the people that work for you are doing and have an understanding at least of the outline of what's involved, then that's shame on you because it's important that you understand what's coming in. You've probably seen it as well, but we've had clients come to us who had no idea how to get into the back end of their website.
Oh yeah, happens all the time. Small businesses.
No idea if they had Google Analytics.
Right.
You know,
correct.
and oh my God, it's like you have to get, this is yours. It's like buying a house and giving the keys to some rando that you met in a mall.
Yeah. That's
Like,
right. They don't
how
know.
do
They
you
don't. Yeah, it's their intellectual property. Their whole company be shut down if they don't have a site these days. You have to have a site. And
absolutely.
they can't even get into it. They don't even know who's allowed to get into
No,
it. They don't have
no.
any idea about cybersecurity or
Mm.
administrative access and all that. It's very sad. A lot of times the hardest part of the onboarding process, even in a mid-sized company, not just the little guys,
No, bigger
is
ones too.
that
Yeah.
access part, because maybe the boss's son worked on it 3 months ago or 2 years ago, and now they don't
He
know what the
gave it to his
password is.
friend because he
Yeah.
didn't have time anymore, and the
Yeah.
friend gave it to God knows who.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've run into those a few times.
That's very sad. It
It
really is
is.
sad.
It really
Yeah.
is, because I think you probably agree with me that the digital sphere, the cloud, and everything that goes with it has given us such incredible tools
Mhm.
that if you pay a little attention,
Mhm.
you can actually lead the pack, because so many aren't paying attention to all the pieces.
Yeah, I would say about maybe 70% of certainly the small businesses have absolutely no idea
I
what's
agree with
going
you.
on and how to manage it. And I think that's sad. I'm not putting them down. I love entrepreneurs. I've been working with
Yeah.
entrepreneurs my whole life. I have full respect for them. They're my best friends. I love entrepreneurs. But it's so sad, which is why, by the way, I stopped being a revenue coach and doing nothing but that and opened a digital agency, because I just kept seeing them be deer in the headlights. They built a business. It was a good business. And yet this stuff was coming down the track just like a freight train, and
Yeah.
they didn't know how to deal with it. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to manage it. So then they'd get one guy to do SEO or somebody to do social. And so they come to us and say, well, we tried that, but it didn't work. And I'm like, well, okay, but how did you do it? And it's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
try
And
to help them understand every single thing we're doing and how it works, so they get smarter about it. Part of my job is learning all the time to educate them all the time.
absolutely. And to me, yeah, I'm forever saying, first of all, you have to start the way you plan to finish. So
Mhm.
don't just slough it off and say, oh, somebody else is doing it, I won't bother.
Mm-mm.
No. You start in control, and that way you will always be in control. It is your business.
Yeah.
And if you don't put all those pieces of that quilt together, you're never going to be warm.
Yep, that is correct.
That's kind of a folksy analogy,
Yes.
but
Yeah. No, it's all right. It's good.
good. Thank you.
By the way, I do want to go back to one thing if we have a moment.
Yes.
You mentioned about the word of mouth and all that stuff. For years, I've been saying something that people quote me on quite a bit, which is branding is the promise that you make. Your brand is the promise that you keep.
Ooh, that's good.
And the brand is the thing that they say about the guy who makes the horses skittish. And
Yep.
what's interesting is that furrier probably had a big thing about a big poster up about his new equipment and
Oh
how many
yeah.
people he had working there, all the stuff that mattered to him.
Yeah.
And here he was being mean to the kids and not realizing that
Absolutely. Yeah.
that was a no-go.
Oh yeah, because if I went somewhere and the people were really good to my children, who didn't need to be,
Yeah.
I wasn't there for my kids,
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
You'll
and
want to
vice
go back.
versa too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody who's not good to my kid, well, first of all, they're in danger. And
Yeah. The mama
yeah,
bear.
yeah, the mama bear for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would never go back.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense,
That's correct.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, but it's so critical, and even more so now. If one person, okay, if you have a good experience at a business, a restaurant, or whatever, without being asked, you may tell one person. If you have a bad experience with no requests whatsoever on average, people will tell more than 10 people.
That's right. That's been proven. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And people should understand that you live and die by your reputation.
That's right. And it's worse than it used to be too now, because even in the big difficult high scrutiny purchases, you can go to G2 or Captera or something and find out what all the other people have all their experiences.
Absolutely.
So you just can't escape from it anymore.
No, you can't escape from it. And not only that, but you have almost immediate access at every level.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, like there's no longer this big hidden C-suite way off in the yonder that are all protected. No,
you're right. You're right.
Yeah, and that makes it different too. It can make customers bolder because they know that they can definitely go higher up the chain. But I think in making customers more aware, we're giving ourselves room to be better businesses.
Oh, yeah. I agree 100%. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I love those kinds of changes that have happened. And I think, it's made capitalism a much friendlier kind of place, because nobody can hide anymore. That if they're doing something bad to somebody in some other country, or they're cheating somebody somewhere, the truth's going to come out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it can be quite literally immediate.
Yes.
Okay.
And big. Yeah.
And big. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's something that I would like to also see people be more vocal in their congratulations and in their kudos for companies that just do that little bit extra. My friend Stan Phelps, who's written many, many fish books, I'll call them fish books. Well, his the first goldfish book that talked about lagniappe. New Orleans, they'd go that little extra with whatever you get in any store in New Orleans. They'll go that little bit extra. That, I think, should be our way of life. If we do that little extra, for one, it makes you feel good. It makes your customer feel good. It makes you memorable. And it makes you stand out from your competition.
Yes, I agree. It is often the biggest differentiator. And, even on a personal level, people who, like all the people that work at my company are independent contractors. We're just a virtual company, and I love working with independent contractors. So it's all great. And they already, by the time they come around to working with us, they've been through the experience of competition and knowing when they've really gone beyond and they're delivering something special. And those are the kind of people we look for, because our clients expect that from us. We really try to go the extra mile and give them more than they expected.
Yeah.
It pays off. It really does pay off.
Absolutely. Well, not only that, I think you probably agree with me. It just feels good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love to have happy clients.
Well, yeah, it's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best. Absolutely. Well, I could probably go on talking to you forever, but I'm going to have to wrap us up. We may have to do a second run at some point.
All right.
The one thing I like to do for our audience is ask my guests to leave the audience with a little tip or tweak or something that you do, maybe a hack that you use in your personal and or business life on a daily basis that they too can do.
Okay, so this comes from my husband. My husband and I are currently in the middle of his fourth fatal cancer battle.
Oh.
And he's a tough fighter, man. He just keeps plugging away, and we're just best friends and still totally in love after all these years, and working at it. We'll see. I'm assuming he's going to make it.
Yes.
But one of the things that he came up with recently was find it, face it, fix it. Which
I
I
love
think
that.
there's something similar out there. I looked it up recently, and there's something else that other people have done things that are similar, but find it, face it, fix it. And everything we do, we just keep looking for ways to improve. And if there's a problem, we've got to face it, fix it. And then I came up with a corollary to that, which is if you try to fix it and fix it and fix it and fix it, at some point you might have to F it. I don't swear, so I just say F.
That was
Everybody knows what
wonderful.
I'm talking about, right? So there are times when you just have to say, this isn't working. I have to go to plan W or something.
Yeah.
And just change the game all the way around. But that really is helpful, and it helps people with the blame game, where they think they have to blame each other, themselves, or they judge themselves. Don't even waste time on that. You made a mistake. Okay, now we're going to fix it and move on. And we're going to be totally straight about it. That my team knows if I blow it, I just immediately say, I blew it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do this. Here's how we're going to keep it from happening again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And life gets real simple when you do that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm the first one to tell you I messed up, because I mess up.
We all do.
Yeah. And sometimes it's really funny.
Yeah. So you have to keep a sense of humor about all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep a sense of humor about everything.
Yes.
Well, I have to say, this has been thoroughly enjoyable, educational, informative.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on the show. Kristin Zhivago has been with us today, and I wasn't joking. We will have to invite her back. In the meantime, thank you so much for being my guest. Thank you for being our audience, and make the very best of your today, every day. We're going to see you next time.